Welcome to the Busy Latter-day Saint, where righteous desires and living life come together. Here, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints discuss their challenges and successes in studying the Scriptures. I'm your host, Richard Bernard. Ratings and reviews are crucial to the success of any podcast, and so if you enjoy listening to this podcast, please leave a rating, review, or both. If you do not know how, there are links in my show notes. Also, please contact me if you would like to be a guest on the show or know someone that should be part of this podcast. Information on how to reach me and a link to my website are also in the show notes. We have the privilege of hearing from Shaun, who is currently serving as bishop in Tennessee. As a business owner, husband, and father of 4 children, Shaun's life is a busy one. He shares with us his experiences as a bishop in the early years of serving in that position and how he had it all wrong, and how important it is to start the day with the Scriptures. The music for this program is by Marvin Goldstein and used with his permission. And now, here's Shaun. Well, Shaun, welcome this morning. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful, I guess, as Dave Ramsey would say, better than I deserve.
And let's see, you're back there in Tennessee, right?
That's right, Franklin, Tennessee. It's Middle Tennessee area.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about your family.
I have 4 children. We are a family of 6. My wife, her name is Annalise. She's born and raised here in Tennessee, in a small country town in Chapmansboro, which is close to the military base there in Clarksville, which Tammy is very familiar with. And we have 4 children, ages 18. My daughter is about to graduate. She's a girl. I have a freshman, Titus, who's 15 now. I have 2 little ones, a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and then myself. And I'm originally from California and made the move to Tennessee back in 2006.
What made you make the move from California to Tennessee? I can understand it in today's political market, why anybody would leave California, right. But back then, why did you leave California?
So Annalise and I got married in California, and when I graduated from the University of Nevada, we decided to start life in California. We realized fairly quickly that it's expensive to live there with a new family, coming out of college, trying to live on your own. So we prayed about it and thought about it and discussed that maybe moving to Tennessee, where we're closer to her family, might be the best way to start life. So I guess we after college, we went there in May, and in October at the end of 2006, we decided to make that jump and been here ever since. So financially, and I guess our platform to begin our family life, we thought, okay, it's probably better we start in Tennessee versus California.
Now, where in California were you raised?
I was born and raised in a place called Santa Ana, California, which is in Orange County, south of LA. And I have 4 siblings, and yeah.
Well, I'm
good time back there.
Very familiar with Santa Ana. I'm from California too, and I was in the San Gabriel Valley. That's where I was raised. So,
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it's nice to be out of there. I'm up in Utah. So,
right.
Now, you were telling me you have your own business.
Yes.
And what is it you do?
We are a subcontracting company. So we builders. I build relationships with builders and developers, and we contractually agree to install HVAC, heating and air equipment in the new developments, some existing areas, and then in small businesses as well. So.
And how many employees do you have?
All my employees, we operate under 1099,
Oh,
but I
okay.
have 30 guys that work for me.
Oh, okay. Yep. Very good. Now, what is it you do in the church currently?
I'm currently the bishop of the Cunningham Ward in Hopkinsville, Kentucky Stake.
Okay, and how long have you been serving as bishop?
Uh, I've been bishop. I think this is going on my third year, so April would be my official third year.
Okay, so you got a few more years to go.
Yes, yes, it's actually going pretty quickly.
Yes, it does. You look back and wonder how the time went so quickly.
Right.
Did you serve a mission?
I did. I served in the Sydney. It was called the Australia Sydney North Mission. I can't remember now if it's one mission, but we were the Sydney North.
Okay. And your siblings, have they all served missions?
Yes. So my eldest sister, she served in San Jose, California, in the 80s, I believe. And my eldest brother, who is underneath her, he served in the Dominican Republic. And then I have two younger sisters who got married at a young age.
Oh, okay. And your parents obviously were members of the church or are members of the church.
They are. Both my parents have passed, but my father actually served a labor mission from the island, so he was called to be a labor missionary in Hawaii, coming from the island of Samoa.
Oh, okay. And when did your parents join the church?
I think my father was a teenager when he joined the church, when his mother met missionaries, and they were introduced to the church. And then my mother, she was baptized when she was 8, and her father was introduced to the gospel, and they became members out in Samoa.
Okay. And let's see, what other church positions have you held?
It'd probably be better if I work backwards, um, because I can remember it easier. So before I was bishop, I was the Stake Young Men's president. And then before the Stake Young Men's president, I served in the branch presidency of the newly formed Young Single Adult Ward in our stake. And then from there, I served as counselor to two different bishoprics in the ward. And then from there, I served as the priest quorum advisor and young men's president, and ward mission leader. So various roles since I've been in Tennessee.
Well, if you had to look back, which of those positions did you enjoy the most?
So by far, being the bishop is the most um, enjoyable, yes, most fulfilling. But if there was a direct connection that would also, you know, rival being bishop, it's being the young men's priest quorum advisor. That was the most enjoyable.
Yeah, I was going to think that as a bishop, of course, you're responsible for the youth, and it sounds like you served as counselors and everything, so you were involved in the youth quite a bit.
Yes, those are the times where you can actually see an impact in a young man's life, uh, especially when they're going through some real struggles that cause them to go a different direction. Um, Maybe there's parents that have concerns for their children, and I can only remember back when I was a teenager, I had my own struggles, and the people that made the largest impact was not necessarily the bishops. It was those that worked in the youth who um, went. If you want to categorize it, it would be what ministering. The idea of ministering would be today if people could do it. because you remember those moments where somebody would take you, you know, no matter what time of the night, it could be early in the morning. Um, they would just reach out to you and do things that it felt like that person was really concerned for your well-being. And because it had an impact in my life, I try to implement that as well.
Well, what is your biggest challenge as a bishop?
Well, there was a lot. Uh, I can. So I share this discussion with individuals when it comes to patience. Um, my biggest struggle as a bishop was my first 2 years as a bishop. The What you think you know about being bishop is you think you're the problem solver. That when people come to you, you're supposed to give them something inspirational, and um, hopefully they get that, or they feel rejuvenated, or whatever they need, and they come in the office, and you speak to them, and you feel like you're the person that's going to solve the problem. You feel like you delivered the solution, and then they go out the door, and problem solved, life is grand, and they leave, and they go back doing what they're doing, and you're like, I'm a terrible bishop. I thought I gave them the solution. And the problem with that thought was I, as a bishop, thought that I was the problem solver, and the gospel of Jesus Christ is not that. So I had to learn myself that um, how to help people solve the problems is your responsibility as a bishop is not for you to solve their problems, but to help members solve their own problems. It's all part of that self-reliance. So my first 2 years was thinking that, okay, let me give you, you come in, I'm the doctor, let me give you 2 pills to prescribe to you, and, you're on your way and you're fixed. And it was heartbreaking because I felt like, well, Heavenly Father, why am I putting in so much effort into, helping people and talking to them and giving them the solution, and this is what needs to happen, and they don't do it? What's going on? This is not right. I can't do this because they're not listening to me. So obviously this plan doesn't work. And I tell myself that as I'm looking back those 2 years is for some reason I'm robbing myself of joy somewhere. I don't know what's happening. What's going on? And so I learned that I lack patience in people, and allowing them to be converted to the Lord. And I quickly knew that this is not Shaun Tanatauli's church. So obviously, what Shaun Tanatauli is doing is not the Lord's way. And it was a very, very humbling experience. And so learning, number one, that you need to learn how to love and be patient with people. And number two, you need to do things the Lord's way. That was very hard for me. At that time, I joked with another stake presidency member, and I told them, you know what? If we were back in the premortal realm, I would probably be one of those individuals listening to Lucifer and be like, you know what? That plan might be okay. These people don't have to make bad choices, and you're gonna you're gonna just, okay, you're going here, and the next thing you get is coming back to heaven. I think that's okay. Force everybody to do what they're supposed to do. That sounds easy. Let's do it. And now I know that that is not the way. And so it was a very, very good experience for me to know what is the Lord's way and what is the wrong way. What is Shaun's way that is not correct? And that part was hard for me because I couldn't figure out what I was doing until I read Alma 32, when it discussed the process of how somebody takes the seed and experiments the words of the gospel. When you move it in that direction, my responsibility is not to do it for individuals, but how do we help the Lord um, uh, get into this person's heart, and how can they develop that, and that process that increases, that grows to where um, they want to partake of the fruit that comes in the gospel. That was a hard experience for me, yes, but it was learning. It was great opportunity.
Well, most people don't realize that when someone's called as a bishop, the first thing that happens is there's that mantle of authority that over a few weeks or a month you begin to feel. But that being a bishop is a growth process. And
Right.
every bishop changes as they start. And I think every bishop becomes more humble as they serve longer.
That's right.
Because, yeah, you're not the solution to a problem. It's to guide the people back to the Savior and to discover for themselves the atonement of Jesus Christ, and to realize that they have the answers come from Heavenly Father and not from you, but you're there to simply help guide them or maybe give them some ideas. And you were discussing Alma 32. My wife and I were reading that this morning. And it's a great chapter because it has so many applications for us. But yeah, people who haven't served as a bishop, they sometimes get an idea of what it is and it isn't.
Right.
I had a very good friend that was always, he mentioned once or twice, we were very close, that he was disappointed that he's never been called as a bishop. And a person's worthiness is not necessarily tied to being a bishop.
That's right.
Sometimes the Lord calls somebody to be a bishop because they need the calling to grow.
Exactly.
And the congregation has to suffer.
That's right.
When I was called as bishop, I'll never forget. My wife pulled me aside after about 3 or 4 weeks, and she says, and you have to picture this, there was the chapel, and if you went straight out the back of the chapel, it was a very old building, so it's not constructed like the ones are today, but you would leave the chapel by going out toward the back, and then there would be the lobby, and then if you kept going, you'd go straight into the relief society room, and off to the side there was my office. And so I would leave the office about 10 minutes before the sacrament meeting started and head straight to the podium and sit down. And my wife pulled me aside, and I've told this story before on this podcast, but she pulled me aside and said, "You can't do that." And I said, "I can't do what?" "Well, you're going straight from the office to the podium." And I said, "Yeah, I've got to get to the podium, and it's really the only way to get there is I've got to go straight." And she said, "No, you don't understand. You're not talking to the people as you go to the podium." And what she was trying to tell me in a very nice way is that you've got to love the people and be concerned about them. And I thought as a bishop I'm just supposed to manage things, but
Right.
I quickly learned from that I made sure that I shook hands and asked how people were doing and everything. And so, yes, it's a growing experience. It really is. And it's not
Yes, sir.
it's not at all what people think it is until they've actually been there.
Yeah, I most people, that the old culture, the stigma of being bishop, everybody, you get the congratulations, condolences, comments, and you get some brethren who say, "Oh, I never wish I don't pray to be the bishop, or I hope they never call me as bishop." And I think most of them just have an idea about the sacrifices that are put in, but what they don't understand is the experiences as a bishop can never be duplicated in any other calling. You can get experiences and other connections with individuals and the Spirit, definitely in callings that are, pertaining to the individual. But as a bishop, the amount of learning, the amount of knowledge, and the humility that you are given, it's the humble pie that you constantly get fed. That is by far the most shocking. I didn't realize how much a person learns as being bishop, especially when their heart's in the right place. But I tell brethren, I said, you should live yourself in a manner that if the Lord needed you to call you as a bishop, that you would be willing and ready to serve, because it is the greatest experience that the church has for people.
Now, as a bishop, obviously your responsibility really is the youth. It's the elders quorum that's the father of the ward, not the bishop.
Right.
But with your youth, how are you meeting with them? Are you doing through Zoom? What's the situation there in Tennessee?
So we're a bit rebellious at the moment. We are meeting face to face in person. But we do keep our social distancing protocols and our mask wearing to the best of our abilities. But there is a difference when we try to do Zoom calls. It wasn't as the youth didn't feel as well connected, and so we try to figure out ways that we can get together outside, different places that will allow us to come together as a youth. So right now we are getting together, and with the stake's approval as well, we meet often. So we do our Wednesday night activities in person. We have weekend activities and service projects in person. And in our area, we also are allowed to have a second hour with just the young people in the youth and primary. So we are getting together, and we actually are having really good turnouts since December, where there's quite a few new kids that are coming, which is phenomenal. It's not because of me, it's because our other advisors and our young women's leaders that are just they're just working really hard to help the young people.
Now, how many young men do you have in the ward?
So on our roster, I believe we're at, we have 12 priests and 6 are active. We have 7 teachers, and I believe we have 6 that are active, and we have 5 deacons and 4 are active. So that's almost 30 young men as far as on the roster.
Yeah. Now, being in Tennessee, I've been back to Tennessee when Tammy, our daughter, lived back there with James and her family.
She's amazing, by the way. I was heartbroken when she left, but that's okay.
Well, we were very happy when she got here. So, so I'm somewhat familiar with your area, and I've actually been to your ward, unless the ward building's changed since I've been back there. But how big of an area does your ward cover?
I don't know the actual square miles that we cover, but it is a fairly large area. How would I describe it that you can understand?
Well, what's the furthest somebody has to travel to get to church?
So I believe it's roughly anywhere between 40 and 45 minutes.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. That gives us an idea of what. So you've got a big area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's spread out. Most of our areas in the country, so that makes it more difficult. Where the meeting house is in the city limits, so people have to drive quite a bit.
Yeah. Now I just listened to a podcast called "The Leading Saints," and they had a woman on there from Wisconsin, Milwaukee, anyway, somewhere in the Midwest, and her name was Deanna. And she gave a great lesson on how to use Zoom to get people involved so that they feel involved. And I'm going to, for the listeners, I'm going to put that link to that podcast in the notes. And I'll even text that to you. You may want to listen because you never know when you might have to use Zoom. And she gave some great advice on, in fact, she works with the youth herself, the sisters. And
Wonderful.
She just has great participation, and it's because of the techniques on how she uses Zoom.
Awesome.
So
That'd be great.
I want all the listeners to know about that. And I've actually had the person who leads the Leading Saint podcast as one of my guests. So, but he's got a great podcast, and it's all about being leaders in the church. So I will definitely get that in the notes. Well, let's turn to the scriptures now. How do you deal with the scriptures with your youth? Exactly, how do you get them involved in the scriptures?
So, what we try to do with the scripture studies is the in the spiritual aspect of the four quadrants of the goal setting. So we just went through that. It's the new youth program that just came out last year. But what we're trying to do with them as we meet is when we're looking at goals altogether, the part that I try to help the youth understand is do not look at the big vision, the long vision as your goal. That is a goal, yes, but that is not something that you should focus all your energy on. What we need to do is bring that all the way down to the small and simple things. What happens with somebody who is a certain way or they become something is because they've developed these traits, these characteristics, and those traits and characteristics are developed through habits and through choices that happen every single day. And so what happens is we need to go down and figure out how do we get those. And so one thing that we focus on is trying to help youth do the small and simple things of daily activity. Now, how to do that is hard because one thing that we don't want to come across is being I don't want to be a checklister, somebody that only calls on our youth just to say, hey, did you read this morning on your goals? You have your goals to read 15 minutes a day or at least a chapter and then your prayer. Have you done it? Sometimes it feels like, you're calling them just to say, did you check the list? Did you check off the box? And so right now what I'm trying to do with them as we meet is I'm trying to make a connection between where they're at in life, in their school life, and how do we use the scriptures to see how the Lord navigates us and helps us navigate through life through better choices. So mostly through a lot of interviews and a lot of ministering is how we're trying to get them to read the scriptures.
Okay. And now you have an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old.
Yes.
And so how do you get, I'm just picturing you and your family sitting down and reading the scriptures. You've got a wide range there in ages. How do you keep your family engaged in the scriptures?
Most of the time it's the older teenagers that are reading together as a family, and they would read, and the little ones would fall asleep at times. So what we've done is the amazing thing about the younger ones is they desire to want to read out loud more than the teenagers do. The problem with letting the young ones read is one verse can take 5 minutes to read, but their joy and enthusiasm of wanting to read is special. That we try to get everybody to, because most of the time it's when the kids just get home from practice or my daughter gets home from work, she's tired, and it's time to read. And the little ones say, I want to read. And, we're going to be here forever. And then, there's grumpy faces. There's some attitude. But then when we let them read just a verse, they bring in a spirit that allows the family just to enjoy their moment that they enjoy to read, because they always want to read. But I really enjoy when my teenagers read, because it allows me to ask questions. It allows my wife to see how their mind can connect with the words and what's happening in their life, and to see them make those connections. feels good knowing that, okay, they're on the right track where they're making those connections with the Lord.
Do you do the reading in the evening? It sounds like you do more in the evening than the morning.
Definitely in the evening,
Okay.
we
And
do.
yeah, do you have a particular time?
We try to schedule it at 7. That is our time because practices are normally over, and my daughter gets home from work. Uh, if nobody has practice and or working, we try to get it earlier at 6, because once they get home and they get into their own routine, they're doing their homework, they're with friends, and then they want to do their own time. It's more difficult to pull them in and say, okay, come on, let's read and shift gears. So we try to do it earlier.
Now, have you ever tried the morning?
We haven't. No, actually, we have not tried the morning.
Now, in Tennessee, I assume they have early morning seminary.
We do.
Yeah, and that obviously takes up the morning. What time is your seminary in the morning?
Well, right now, everything is online.
Oh, it's online. Okay.
So they try to accomplish uh, whatever portion of seminary they can online, but it's online at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're free to do it as
Yeah.
they will.
Well, I have families that get the kids up and, and read the scriptures in the morning, but the problem with that, they keep falling asleep. And then if you do it in the evening, like you said, you're competing with friends and homework and everything else. But what is important is that you're getting it done, and that's what's really important. Now, as far as you personally in studying the scriptures, when do you do that?
I normally do it the first moment I wake up.
Okay.
So I've learned it's a lot easier for me to start the day. So my wife and I, we have our own personal studies. Sometimes we'd be laying in bed and I would be awake, or she would be awake, and she's already reading, and or I'm reading, and we stick to "Come Follow Me," so that way we're on the same page. Um, so we can have our own discussions. And then my wife right now is reading the Book of Mormon over again. Um, but doing it in the morning allows us to have a a good start to the day. We also encourage the kids to get that same routine where individual study and prayer is a really good habit. First thing they do when they wake up, even before they brush their teeth or get ready, just wake up on your knees and pray, and then just start reading, and then you can get ready for the day.
You and your wife are studying
Mhm.
together. What about you individually? How do you work that out?
I just do it in the morning
Okay,
myself.
yeah, in the morning by yourself.
That's right.
And what does that study incorporate? Is it just reading? Are you taking notes? What exactly are you doing?
So for me on my studying, I'll do the "Come Follow Me" so I can have that have that portion done. But then the rest of the studying comes from the week's activities of individuals that I have to prepare for to meet with,
Hmm.
people that we're counseling with, an issue that occurred in the past, and then uh, I need to do better at recording all of the revelation that comes from it. But um, that's how I pick and choose what I need to study. So um, if there's interviews that I know that there's a struggle that is coming up with particular families, like this weekend, um, I try to read in there what might the Lord have me read in order to relate to the individual so that they can, um, be directed to the Lord. Uh, that's how I receive that revelation is putting it together with things that are currently happening. And a lot of it seems to be working out where I believe I find myself emotional and crying because you're searching for something that you're trying to figure out what is going on? What is happening with this individual? Why? What am I not seeing? And you're submissive to the Lord. And when you open the scriptures and find the stories that are in there, the doctrine, the principles in there, you get this sense of empowerment of yourself that you feel like you're not doing this alone. And so this in turn hopefully will translate to the individual. So that's how I gauge my direct my individual studies. Now, if there's sometimes a lull where I haven't met with anybody in a week or two, if I haven't had an experience that drive me to the scriptures because of an individual, I'll remember questions from the youth. A lot of the things that they're going through today, like the social topics that are plaguing our world, I'll try to figure out in the scriptures, how can we learn from it? How do we help individuals understand this, and what is the Lord's way? I also use that as well to study.
Now, you mentioned that you don't always write down your revelations then?
I don't. I'm terrible at that. I need to at least do a video, and my sister keeps telling me to do a memo, because if I can't write it down and I'm learning it, at least I'll have it somewhere so I can reflect back on it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm becoming more and more convinced that the writing process is almost as important as the reading process, because
I 100%.
yeah, because I find that, and I'm repeating myself for the listeners. They say, "Oh, he's going on this again," but I'm just finding that the writing process really opens things up. And as I've interviewed other people about studying the scriptures, they've indicated the same thing. Now, I've shared with the listeners, there's the app called the Day One app.
Uh-huh.
And it's just one of many apps one can use. But yeah, I record in there every day, and I've even now I have the large plates and small plates. I've got two journals, and so I save the small plates for the spiritual things and the large plates for what I did during the day. But yeah, I would encourage you that the writing, and it doesn't matter if you use an app or if you just get some pen and paper or buy one of those inexpensive bound journals that you can buy at just about any stationery store, and just write, because I've, even when I served as a bishop, I can't say I did it every day, maybe once a week, but I did it enough that it certainly helped, because I think I mentioned this last week in the podcast that I was contacted about 5 or 6, 7 years after being a bishop about a certain ordination. And it was in that journal that I was able to get the answer, because it was another bishop that called me and said, "I see that you were the past bishop, and we don't have a record of this person actually being ordained, whatever the office was." And so,
Right.
yeah, so it was very, very helpful. Well, I've enjoyed the time with you, and I know that you've never listened to this podcast, or at least I don't think you have. And
So if
so,
I happen, I should.
yes, well, I hope that you become a listener. But if you had, you would know how we're going to end this. And that is, I'm going to ask if you would bear your testimony.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity for letting me be on here. And hopefully your listeners have felt as much as I felt how much I love the gospel. I expressed to my members, I shouldn't say my members, our members in the Cunningham ward, that I wouldn't be here today had it not been for the grace of Jesus Christ. His mercy is just as tangible as anything physical that you can grab, and the moment you're able to feel that, your life will change. You will know that the purpose of who you are and who our Heavenly Father wants you to become is not just an idea. It's a reality that you can choose to have. And my testimony is that our Heavenly Father is real. He is just like my dad. Somebody that wants you to be better, but when you make mistakes, there's no failure. It's just learning. Um, and if we can see the love that our Heavenly Father has, life would be um, much happier. So I know that I know He's real. I know our Savior Jesus Christ is real. I have a strong testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith. Reading the saints and learning about the prophet and also what they've been through in church history is nothing short of amazing. It's miraculous. And just for your listeners, please do everything you can to figure out if you're struggling with a testimony, what it is that you need to do, strengthen it. And if you have your testimony, people need to hear it. People need to know it. People need to feel of that same power that comes from knowing the truth. And so that is my testimony. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.